Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Generation Gap. I'm Gretchen, joined by my co-host Tom.
And I'm Tom, joined by my co-host Gretchen.
And today we're talking about 1969's American Western film Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. Directed by George Roy Hill, written by William Goldman of The Princess Bride fame, and starring Paul Newman and Robert Redford in their first pairing.
Yeah.
One of two.
Yeah. And this is as a little nod to Redford.
The late Robert Redford,
passing, yeah.
This was a first viewing for me, but I know you have a lot of history with this one, so I'm going to let you go first and talk about your first experience.
Well, I was, believe it or not, my parents were not the most careful parents. They certainly weren't helicopter parents. So, well, maybe they were in a way, because they took me to the movies to see this in 1969 when I was 7 years old, maybe 8. I don't know exactly which month it came out, but 8 the most. And I remember enjoying it as much as I could at that age, but I remember also being sort of, I felt my head swimming at the end with all the gunshots and, these two people that I'd grown to sort of love, or like at least, suddenly being shot and knowing that they were kind of doomed, or me knowing they were kind of doomed while they didn't know they were doomed. Had a lot of different feelings about it, but I enjoyed it overall, and I love it. I think it holds up well. It's one of my favorites. Again, screenplay by William Goldman. Very, he did a lot of research. He sat on it for a while. There's a lot of facts in there. Just mentioned little things. He throws in their real names. Although I thought he got Sundance's name wrong. My subtitle certainly said it was wrong. It's actually Longabow, and it did say Longbow. Slight difference, but it was Harry Longabow. And so they even had just a little moment where they throw in their real names. Butch's actual love for the bicycle, which was a fact because it was a new novelty item at the time. So well researched, so there's a lot of history there, and very entertaining. And it makes you wish, it made me wish anyway, that there were more pairings besides the Sting and Butch and Sundance, because they were good together.
Oh yeah,
they really did. They seemed like they genuinely cared for each other. I don't know if you can always fake that. I mean, actors are great at faking things, but
chemistry is chemistry.
Chemistry is chemistry. Yeah, they definitely had it. Yeah.
So this was my first viewing of the film, and actually, we were talking beforehand, this is the second Robert Redford film I've seen. The first one I saw was Captain America: The Winter Soldier, and this is my third Paul Newman, and only the second of which is one of where he's headlining. Right. So,
You're not counting Cars, are you?
I actually didn't see Cars.
Okay. Yeah.
No, because my parents had some taste.
Yeah. Okay, good.
I was taken by it. In parts, there were parts of the movie that lost me, and I don't think it's the fault of. I don't know. It's definitely not the characters or the story, but it's one of those things where decisions were made in production that don't always line up to, in my opinion, what.
Oh, I could not agree more strongly.
We're gonna talk about the soundtrack in a minute or two, but so the story is loosely based on the story of two gunfighters who fled to Bolivia in an attempt to outrun the law. Yeah. Butch Cassidy, played by Paul Newman, and the Sundance Kid, which that's Robert Redford. They're after their gang is scattered, they take Sundance's girlfriend down to Bolivia and find they can't really outrun their problems even across the line.
Right.
So
yep.
It's weird. It reminded me a little bit of Young Guns.
Yeah.
And I think part of it was the ending.
Right.
And I think the other part of it is it's kind of like that Lights Out on the Old West look, where it's the 60s was doing this thing where the Western was kind of on its way out in theaters. And so they're trying to find ways to reinvent the wheel. Yeah. You had movies like True Grit, this one.
The Wild Bunch was...
The Wild Bunch, yeah, it's another one. Yeah. They were kind of trying to do, I think revisionist Western is kind of the term that came to define it. Yeah. Where it was trying to find a way to tell the story of the outlaws in a time period that was passing them by. Yeah. And of the ones that I've seen, I think this one might do it the best.
Yeah, I think it's funny you mention that too, because some critics at the time said that this would be the death knell for the Western, that this kind of was it. They found it kind of silly. And trying to modernize it, I guess, at that time didn't go over that well, especially compared to earlier Westerns, which seemed more true to the form.
Well, I will say, like, the other movie it kind of reminded me of was a little bit was The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, which
Right.
is a totally different tone
Right.
and things like that, but it is very much like the death of the gunfighter, like
Yeah.
passing the torch of
Yeah.
we can't really do this anymore. Cause
And in
that's not the
reality,
way.
Butch and Sundance were kind of the end of that era
Tail end.
also, because they were into the 1900s even, you know,
Mhm.
which you think of the Old West as being at least 1800s, you know, not really 1900s. So there's that too, you know.
There, I think potentially the most interesting thing is like obviously it's a Western film, but I know, and for me personally, I had a little bit of trouble trying to grasp what tone the film was trying to go for.
Yeah.
Which is a William Goldman staple. Like for those who watch, who have are familiar with The Princess Bride, you know that like he likes to play around with humor in his stuff.
The genres too, yeah.
But and in The Princess Bride, like the original book, that also ends very somberly if you're familiar with the end of the story. But I confess, I kind of felt like this film didn't know at all times whether it was supposed to be taking itself seriously or not.
That was one of the critics' complaints at the time too. Siskel and Ebert famously didn't really care for the film either, and they refused to change their minds later. You know, even as the film grew and became successful and sort of almost a cult favorite. But I know what you mean, and it's almost disconcerting a bit because is it a Western? Is it a comedy? I mean. Is it a musical?
It's definitely not Blazing Saddles.
No.
Yeah, it's something.
But I also understand and I respect that real life is a comedy. You know, real life dramas. You know, when you can watch a very serious film, and even in real serious cases in life, there are moments of levity. You know, which are welcome. And so I didn't really mind that as much, but you know, and it also did make me care for the characters maybe a little more than you would if they were just sort of serious, you know, outlaws.
And it definitely does help with their chemistry together. Like I do think
they played off each other so
they're
well.
really good. I'm like, hey, I like these guys,
Yeah.
and even though they're not, you know, they're on the wrong side of the law.
Right,
I kind of hope it goes okay for them.
Right, exactly, yeah. Which is always interesting, I think, for a theater goer or a movie watcher. Like I'm rooting for these guys. I had the same feeling for Bonnie and Clyde a few years earlier, which my parents also took me to see when I was 2 years younger.
That's
and I
insane.
remember also then feeling like, oh, my head swimming, like all the shooting. Not the very end when Bonnie and Clyde are killed, massacred, but earlier with Buck and Blanche, there was just shots coming from everywhere. And again, you know, the movie makes you like these characters. You know, they make them likable. They're fun. You travel with them for almost 2 hours, and all of a sudden, like, wait, they're all getting shot to pieces. Like, yeah, especially as a young kid, how do you process that? You know,
a couple episodes ago we did Angels with Dirty Faces, which is very similar. Like, hey, you kind of feel really, hey, I like this guy. This sucks, actually.
Rocky Sullivan's great. I know. Yeah, is there some way you can get out of this? You know.
And that definitely, like, that's been, we love rooting for, they call it rooting for the Empire, is the trope name. Right. But, like, we love guys that aren't.
Yeah, these are anti-heroes. Yeah,
anti-heroes.
They are the most fun a lot of times, and they're kind of made that way, you know.
And this was also, like, the perfect time for this, too, the late 60s into the 70s.
Yeah,
it was starting to get really big.
Yeah. And a lot of people drew similarities between this and protesting the Vietnam War and etc. And I didn't really see it, and I don't really see it now, but I'm sure if you
people did.
Yeah, if you were at that age in that era, you would have seen it for sure.
It's not a very violent film. Like, there's a lot of gunshots, but like it's a strong PG. A strong PG, I say, because there's one or two.
Well, and it's obviously it's mentioned in the film too that in real life, apparently too, Butch really never killed anyone, although he does it a little bit at the end of the film. But even toward the end of his life, people who knew him swore he would never kill anyone. He wasn't that kind of guy. He wasn't like bloodthirsty. And Sundance was a much better shot and didn't seem to have that same compunction, but he wasn't known for piling up, you know. And
it wasn't Billy the Kid.
He wasn't Billy the Kid. He didn't keep a tally on his gun belt, you know, things like that. So it was to the minimum. And then, of course, at the end, when you're fighting against the Bolivian army,
what are you gonna do?
Yeah, there's gonna be some more bloodshed. We could talk about that too. The blood. There was one scene earlier when Robert Redford, near the ending, when he comes when he falls back into that little room they're hiding in, and the blood on his forehead looks very real. And I thought, wow, that looks pretty good. It's pretty realistic. They were having a lot of problems with blood at that time, the effects. They were using, I think Kensington Gore became the go-to for blood. But I don't know if it was the censors, but there were times when the blood was orange looking and it looked like, I don't know, it looked like silly putty. And then when they fell into the room and they're laying there with their wounds, trying to very, very tenderly take care of each other, the wounds almost look like the old play form, you know, like they looked like something they just laid on their clothes. Like, it didn't look like it had soaked through. It looked very, I don't know, it was almost distracting. I wish older films before that didn't show any blood. And I was okay with that. Maybe they should have done that here, or at least made it look more realistic.
Maybe.
Although more realistic, I probably would have been more traumatized.
Yeah. Well, I don't even. My parents probably would have given me at least like 11 or 10 before I saw this one. But
Yeah.
I really enjoyed too. Like this is a film. Obviously, like Paul Newman and Robert Redford are like the stars. The cast is pretty big.
Notable,
and
yeah,
there's a lot of
surprisingly.
names in there that I'm like, hey, I know them.
Yeah.
Ted Cassidy,
Yes.
I believe, is in this.
He is. You may know him as Lurch from the Addams Family.
I enjoy seeing him when he pops up and stuff. I feel like he was on Star Trek a couple of times.
Yeah, he was.
That's what I know him from mostly.
Voice is unmistakable.
Yes, he's got a very distinct look.
Yeah. And a little, I don't know if you knew, he died very young.
I did read that.
Yeah, he's 47 years old, and he had a benign tumor on his heart, and unfortunately, I don't know if they nicked it or whatever they did, so he ended up dying. Yeah, it's very sad. And you see him; he's such a physical specimen in this film, you know. Oh, and it was also because of what made him so big was what also was affecting his heart, apparently. So, or the tumor. Very sad. But yeah, Cloris Leachman, believe it or not.
Yeah, who I see her name in a ton of stuff, and it was
Yeah.
like, the first time I was like, oh, that's okay.
And you see her name in the credits, you're like, did I miss her?
Yes.
Because you don't really even see her face very much at all. She plays a prostitute. And I don't know. This is interesting. I don't know if you know Kenneth Mars.
I do.
He was great in Young Frankenstein.
Yes.
And he's also in this. He just plays a marshal.
Oh.
And he and Cloris Leachman were paired together on Malcolm in the Middle.
Oh, okay.
And they kind of dusted off the German accents, which I thought was funny from Young Frankenstein.
That is
because
funny.
of course they were also in Young Frankenstein together. Cloris Leachman and Kenneth Mars.
That's right. That's really funny.
Isn't it funny? Nobody really mentions that either, but I was like, wait, Cloris Leachman's in this movie? Because I know Kenneth Mars was in this, and it's kind of interesting.
And that's Catherine Ross as Sundance's girlfriend.
Etta Place.
Yeah, who I knew her name, and she was in The Graduate.
Oh yeah.
And The Stepford Wives were the two big ones that I knew her from.
Yeah.
But she's been in a lot of stuff.
Yeah, she's very well known. She was on some TV shows too.
She disappears the back third of this film.
She does. But in real life, that also follows real life because Etta Place. If that was even her real name, there's a lot of mystery.
Out.
She just disappears. Yeah.
And she flat
from
out,
history too.
She flat out says too, like, I'm not going to stick around and watch you die.
Yeah.
Which is understandable.
Yeah.
My biggest issue with the film, besides the soundtrack, which is
we'll get into that a little bit.
I'm going to talk about that in a minute. And maybe this is like partially true, but I was having a hard time trying to figure out the dynamic between the three of them.
Yeah.
And
that's completely fictional. There was and I've read a lot about and watched a lot about the real life outlaws. It was pretty clear that whatever she was, it was Sundance's. She was his. She was his girl. Whatever she was, there's stories that she might have been a prostitute or that she might have been a school teacher. She's portrayed as a school teacher in the film, which I kind of lean more toward. And the thinking there is that she seemed too clean, actually too pretty for her age. And prostitutes aged very early. They would have looked worse in real life because there are photographs of her still, available. You can see them. Oh yeah. And she's very pretty. The same photographs they took in the film. Oh, there's those photographs.
That's right. Yeah, I did remember hearing that.
Which is also really interesting because again, it was the beginning of the 20th century. She was a part of their lives. Oh, that's what it was too. You were questioning the ambiguity there. Like, what was she?
Yeah.
Like, was she Butch's? Was she Sundance's? Were they, something more than that? So that was a fictional.
Made it up for the movie.
Yeah, because like I said, in real life, she was. There's even a story. Unsubstantiated, of course, but that after she did go back to the United States, that Sundance also did come and visit her at one point at least. And I'll tell you, we can get into it at the end, but there's a lot of, I was researching it again and I loved it as a kid. There was something even a couple of years ago that came out with DNA where it ends up, it wasn't Sundance, but it was interesting, but because there's still stories about whether or not they actually died, which I thought was clever the way William Goldman ended it. Like, you don't see them actually getting shot at all.
It was a great ending.
It was smart because it's kind of ambiguous. And even though it seems like, well, how could they possibly survive? They get the whole Bolivian army after them. But he didn't really show them die because in real life, they don't know. And there's a lot of interesting stories. In fact, I'll tell you, I was so into this as a kid. Just the Old West. In 1975, when I was a kid, on the Mike Douglas show, which was an actual show back then, they had, her name was... drawing a blank right now, but it was Butch Cassidy's real life sister, and she was still alive, and she was 90. I think she was in her 90s. and she had written a book called Butch Cassidy, My Brother. And so she insisted that he had come back in 1925.
Wow.
That he had been on the run, that he was, he lived, without anyone, very quiet life, came back up to Wyoming or Utah, and they were actually Mormons originally, too. Interesting, the Cassidy family. And so he came to visit, spent 2 weeks with them, and said, like, he can't spend more time here. He's going to go out and doesn't want to let anyone know where he was. And supposedly he died not long after that. And supposedly, this was interesting. They know where he died, but they've never told anyone. And in the interview, she says, "Yeah, I know where he's buried, but I'm never going to tell anyone. I can't." And apparently, people actually at one point dug up a grave on her property, on the Cassidy property, and they found a body, but the DNA was too degraded to make any test. And then the family moved that grave again.
That's crazy.
So I kind of like to think maybe they somehow survived and came back. They would have had to live very quiet lives. And I also read stories apparently that Sundance also came back and reconnected with Etta, possibly. Lived in New York, because that's where he was actually from, or New Jersey originally, which they also mentioned in the film, which is kind of interesting. Yeah.
People said the same thing. I think that's really what kind of made me think of Young Guns, is because that they kind of end with that whole, like, baby Billy the Kid survived.
Right.
And because there are rumors, a lot of those old gunfighters, there are lots of
rumors. Yeah. Even into the early gangster era, because I was fascinated with John Dillinger, too, and there was rumors that he also sent another guy to die in his place, and I believed it very strongly when I was younger. And the more research I've done lately, and I look at his body on the slab, and I'm thinking, I don't know, it really does look like he may have died. For some reason, we don't like to accept it. If there's any question at all, we like to, because it's kind of romanticized.
Oh yeah.
And even though they're bad guys, something kind of you'd like to think that they went straight and lived a normal life, quiet life after that.
Yeah, definitely.
And the thing about John Dillinger and Butch and Sundance, supposedly, is, well, John Dillinger also never killed anyone.
Wow.
He was robbing banks during the Depression, and unlike Bonnie and Clyde, which they showed in that film, they never did that. They were pretty cruel. But Dillinger really did give money to people, would hide them out. He would tip people.
That's crazy.
He would say, "You keep your money. I only want the bank's money." So that was Dillinger would do that, and then Butch and Sundance. Butch never killed anyone, and they also were robbing the banks. Which of course, if that's where you have your money, it's also your money. But your money's insured, and supposedly they were thinking, like, well, we're taking. Butch was like he was considered a Robin Hood at that time, because he was taking the bank's money and not your money, which I guess people believe that. I don't think he really cared or made a distinction, but he didn't rob people. You know what I mean? He didn't go and rob a gas station or
an individual.
An individual, right? Which he certainly could have.
Dive a little bit into the director here, who we haven't really touched on. George Roy Hill was kind of like he had a couple really big ones to his name. Yeah. In this time, so he did this. He did Slaughterhouse-5.
Right.
He did The Sting, The Great Waldo Pepper, and The World According to Garp were like the big notable ones I pulled out.
Right.
3 of those, I believe, are Redford.
Right.
And I know The Sting is the second one that Robert Redford and Newman did together.
Paired for. And yes, and The Great Waldo Pepper, yeah. So obviously they had a good working relationship. I know Redford respected him because he was tough. He was kind of a tough director. And he said he definitely had a vision of what he wanted. Yeah. And he was going to get that, and everyone kind of worked toward that.
I do think most of the film does work. There are only 2 or 3 things that don't, in my opinion. Even even everything about Etta, I think it's an interesting part of the story. It's just a question I had.
Right.
The only things I think are an active question mark. I know why they did it. The selection of stills in the middle of the film where a intermission should be was a choice.
Right.
I get it.
I don't agree with it.
Yeah.
I don't think you do either. And I don't know also how they would have done it. Maybe, I don't know, maybe some other way, but the music choice to me,
that's the worst part of the movie.
It was like a Dr. Seuss musical in the middle of a Western, and I just, because we could probably impersonate it, but it's just, especially when it slows down.
It's so,
and then all of a sudden there's and what's funny? I'm watching it with a fresh eye today. I'm watching it again. I'm like, wait, so they're robbing the banks. They robbed this one individual. And also the music's like ba 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 ba, like real happy music. Like, well, it's not happy for the guy.
I don't even
just robbed him. They just took all this guy's money.
I'm like, what movie are we watching?
I know.
And then I have personal beef with the usage of Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head.
Yeah.
I don't hate this song, but I kind of hate it here.
Yeah, and a lot of people, again, Robert Redford himself had real criticisms of the film. He has since stated that he was wrong about it. I think he was right. He should have stuck to his guns.
I mean,
to borrow that pun.
It's an opinion.
Yeah, because he was right. It really had no place. And there's no rain. That was his complaint too. He's like, why are raindrops keep falling? I'm like, there's no rain. There's no rain in the whole film.
Yeah.
You're like, why is there raindrops keep falling on my head?
It's one thing when you have like modern styles of song in a musical set in a different era. That's one thing.
Right.
For me personally, and this is just like a little, it's not a make or break thing, but I'm like, when a film is a period piece and we're having modern music put into it, I'm like, okay, no, that doesn't fit.
Yeah.
It takes me out and not in a fun way.
I agree. Yeah, and the film was criticized at the time again by critics for being anachronistic. You know, having things that really didn't make much sense.
Unless it's a comedy, yeah, it's not really.
And and it's funny again. Thurl Ravenscroft, many of you would know as the voice from The Grinch. You know, the song "You're a Mean One," the real deep bass voice. You can hear his voice also in that chorus. You know, the ba 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 ba. And but he was also Tony the Tiger. You know.
Oh, really?
They're great. That's also the same guy.
That tracks, actually.
So again, it's also distracting, you know, because I'm watching this Western. They're robbing all these banks. And is that Thurl Ravenscroft singing in the background?
I'm not going to lie. Every time I watch The Grinch, I can only really think about Boris Karloff. So.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's another one where they could have done without that song. I know it's sort of iconic now.
It's a good song.
It is, I know. But it's like, I don't know.
I think it's great.
His voice is so iconic.
It's an iconic song.
Yeah.
My cousin plays it. And she plays for a local band. They do performances at Christmas.
And they do that.
They do that song.
Wow.
Yeah, it's part of the
pretty. I've never heard anyone do that.
It's cool. Yeah. You hear it with enough people in an orchestra. It sounds like
that
it's
would
fun.
Be neat. Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But yeah, but again, not in a Western like where also it's like, is this a Seuss film? Like.
It's definitely.
I don't know what I would have preferred. Maybe even not even any music at all, or maybe just an orchestra, just music.
The bicycle scene is so many question marks all in a row for me.
I minded that less than because that was supposed to be a little light moment, sort of frivolous.
I know why it's there.
Yeah.
I think the song over top of it just actively just sit there and go, what is happening?
Yeah, no, I agree. And we're not alone. Like I said, Robert Redford also didn't like it, but
3 to 5 minutes.
Yeah, but then to me, the whole bank robbery montage where it's just, this choir.
Yeah, that was strange.
It was very strange.
With that said, though, like, I mean, the film overall is a win, and it's a series of wins. Yeah. Like, there's so much to be said. Obviously, it's iconic. I knew the poster very well. Everyone, every time you do like group, like couple names and everything, if you're gonna do a duo, Butch and Sundance is a big. People know that.
Yeah.
Sundance Film Festival named for this film.
In fact, I was gonna mention that. You know, it's funny. Both of those guys, Redford's Film Festival and Newman's charity. Mm-hmm. Both named from or after this film. Sundance has the Sundance Film Festival, Robert Redford, and Newman has the Hole in the Wall charity.
Oh, right.
Yeah, named for this film. So it had an impact beyond just 2 hours of good film.
It did, yeah. And I see it in every single like list of movies to see before you die. Like this is a big one for people.
It really is, yeah. It was the end of the '60s, and again, it was kind of its timing. Really. Well, at the time, they thought maybe one of the last Westerns. They've had a revival, obviously, but it could have been at the time.
I think, too, like the end of the 60s into the 70s, and like we touched on it briefly at the beginning, the death of the Western. People say Blazing Saddles was the one that killed it until the revitalization, like the 90s, if you want to say that.
Yeah.
But Westerns were looking different. So I grew up with pretty classic Westerns, like a lot of like the John Wayne fare.
Yeah.
That's what I saw.
Right.
And when I was younger, I really didn't care for them. And as I got older, I liked them a little bit more.
Can you imagine a John Wayne film with that
no
singing?
I don't think, no. I can't, actually.
By the way, it did win an Academy Award for the music.
Are you serious?
It did.
That's terrible.
For the film score.
That's a crime.
Because it's, was it Marvin Hamlish? Who was it? Oh, Burt Bacharach.
Yeah.
And Hal David. Yeah. And, so it won a couple Academy Awards. Best Screenplay, of course, which I agree with.
I agree, yeah.
That, but music? Oh, boy.
I mean... There had to have been another one that year.
Yeah, there had to be. I didn't check, but there had to be something with better music.
Oh, well. Anyway.
Yeah.
The Oscars, I don't agree with them.
No.
In fact, I usually don't.
Yeah.
This was like a decent hit. They also won Best Cinematography.
Yeah, I also agree with that. Film looks beautiful. Yeah.
It looks really good.
Yeah.
And
it makes you want to go visit there too. You know. Yeah.
It looks lived in too, which I like. That film kind of starts to lean into where it's like blurring the line between what looks like a 60s and a 70s film.
Yeah, right.
Where it's like it still has like the quality of the 60s, but like that kind of the grime over the lens is starting to come in.
Right. Yeah, it's funny. We've talked about that, the different looks, from different decades.
Yes.
And it is, people can pick them out right away. You know what else is funny? I was going to mention something else about the real people too, like E.J. Harriman, who's a big part of, they keep that one guy, Woodcock, on the trains. They keep mentioning E.J. Harriman.
Yes.
He was a real guy too for the Union Pacific Railroad. And Woodcock is extremely loyal and dedicated employee.
That guy cracked me up.
Yeah, he was great. They both really existed.
Really?
Yeah, and his tale is fairly accurate. Like him, Woodcock, getting, not
held
necessarily blown up, but held up for sure by Butch Cassidy. Yeah, kind of interesting. So again, it's the screenplay. He really did. He did a deep dive into all
impressive.
And this is the days before computers. So
yeah.
I'm kind of wondering, how did he find all this stuff out?
The old-fashioned way.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
They did a prequel to this in the late 70s that nobody liked or saw and everyone hated.
Yeah, I actually took note of that too.
Oh, really?
But what was interesting is that the guys are you talking about the one with Tom Berenger and William Catt?
Yeah.
Yeah. They did look like.
Yeah.
They did look. And by the way, we didn't mention this either, but if you ever see real pictures of Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, and they are available, and the Sundance Kid does have the mustache, just like Redford wore in the film, and Butch Cassidy is clean shaven, they really do resemble.
Huh.
It's amazing. And then William Catt does resemble Robert Redford, and Tom Berenger could look a little bit like an earlier Paul Newman. So it's funny. The casting I thought was perfect. Whether anyone at the time could go, certainly couldn't access the internet to see what they really looked like, but it was pretty good.
That was pretty good.
Good casting, yeah.
Well, I think like the real life story of this, I didn't know much of anything going in, which may have helped. For fresh eyes, because I got to just kind of sit and experience it as a movie.
Yeah.
And as a film, the pacing, like when it's just Redford and Newman on the screen, or like when they're interacting with other people, when they're together, the film's on fire.
Oh yeah.
Their chemistry is very good, and they both really give very different performances. Newman is a little bit more like a little bit more of a gentleman. He's like more of like a classy gangster.
Yeah, he's almost like the older brother a little bit.
That opening scene, because I did want to talk about the sepia.
Oh yeah, that was a decision. Yeah,
which I was really into. I was excited. I thought the whole movie's gonna be like that.
No,
and I got stoked,
no, certain
and then
scenes.
I was a little disappointed.
Yeah, they brought it back a little bit, but
I do think it's not it might be my favorite, but it's definitely I think like one of the best establishing character scenes in any film whatsoever. Is the opener with Sundance playing cards with the guy that accuses him of cheating.
Even right before that,
awesome.
with Butch looking at the bank.
Yes.
And they're closing it up, and he's like, why? And he says, because it keeps getting robbed. And he says, small price to pay for such beauty. That was good too. And then he wanders over to where Redford's playing, or Sundance is playing cards. And that was great also.
So good.
And it's so typical because, he wasn't cheating.
No.
And he was determined to say, look, I'm not cheating. So if he invites us to stay, then we'll stay or we'll leave.
Yeah.
So we're not going to leave until he invites us to stay.
Yes.
It was just such a clever little scene, well written.
Yes, very tight. And it establishes immediately the type of people that these guys are and also their relationship with each other.
Right. And even the reputation that Sundance had, at least,
Yeah,
because when the guy hears that it's Sundance, he's already challenging him to a draw. And then he says, well, I tried Sundance. And he's like, wait, you're Sundance? If I draw on you, you'll kill me. He says, well, there's that possibility.
I think,
love that scene.
Again, not to draw comparisons to other movies, but Tombstone in the 90s is one of my sister's favorite films ever. Yeah. And it's really good. It's one of my favorite Westerns, but the poker scene where Doc Holliday gets accused of cheating, that's what made me think of it. I was like, all right, this is, it's a standard, but it's a good standard.
Yes.
Like, sometimes these scenes keep showing up and stuff because it's good.
It's not quite a trope, but it's there.
It's close,
and if it's done well, it works.
Fun.
It works. That's why things become tropes.
Yes, absolutely.
You know what's funny about that opening scene? I want to tell you something funny. I've read for years. In fact, his name is in the credits. Sam Elliott.
Yeah, I saw that.
He's married to Catherine Ross, by the way.
Oh.
In fact, they met on that set, and so I thought, where is he in that scene? And I've watched that scene over and over with a discerning eye, looking for Sam Elliott. And then I thought, well, maybe he doesn't have a mustache thing, because you picture Sam Elliott with that mustache.
Right.
I said, well, maybe he's the guy. And then I even thought maybe he's the guy that am I missing it? Is he the elephant in the room? Is he the guy that accuses Redford of cheating? But that's not. We know who that guy is. I forget his name, but he's an actor. So I finally found an answer, and I've been looking at this for a long time. I saw an interview with Sam Elliott, and he talks about being in that film, and he says, "Yeah, I'm in the film, but you never see me." He said, "But you do hear my voice." He said, "And you see the shadow, my profile in shadow."
Oh man.
He says, "All I say is like, I want 2 or whatever it was. Like when they asked like, any more cards, he says, yeah, I'll take 2." And then you just see him as the guys stand up from the table when he accuses Redford Sundance of cheating. They all stand up and back away. And then you can see, I was like, that's it? So finally it's answered. Like, the mystery is solved. He is in it. Obviously, he's in the credits. But why? Like, why even bother?
Yeah, because he wasn't a name then.
No, not at all, no. So what's funny is that he's in that scene with Catherine Ross, and they ended up getting married much later.
Interesting.
He was Catherine Ross's 5th husband, by the way. And they've been married since 1984, I think. So,
God bless.
How many marriages did you have like in such a short span of time?
It happens sometimes.
It does, yeah. It's kind of crazy. Yeah.
I mean,
I thought that was kind of interesting too. So they've been married since 1984. Yep, he's her 5th husband. Oh, and by the way, this is what I was going to tell you. Her third husband, by the way, was the film's cinematographer, who did an excellent job there.
Small world.
She's got a lot of connections to that film, boy.
Small world.
Yeah, very small world. Yeah.
I think the thing that I enjoyed the most about this film, and I think like the thing that modernizes it the most, is the dialogue between Butch and Sundance. The way that they talk to each other is very.
It could be in any film.
It could be in any film, and
modern films. Yeah.
I think right now we're going through this phase in modern cinema where I've complained to my family about this many times. I feel like characters are entering this phase in films where they feel the need to look at the camera and go, well, that just happened. And I'm like, Can we stop doing this, please?
Yeah, yeah.
I liked the way that this film handled it, where it's like these two are commenting on the situation, but in a way that feels like they're still in it. They're not removed from the danger. They're still there.
Right.
But
it's not with a wink and a nod.
But there's enough levity there that they can appreciate it, that they can communicate.
To me, it's real life.
Yes.
Because people in that situation, even no matter how dire it is or how serious it is for their lives when they're running from the law, and the law is relentless, you would say things like, "Who are those guys?" And that kind of becomes humorous. I think they say it 4 or 5 times in that scene. But really, you'd be saying to yourself after everything else, like, so who are they?
My favorite actually is when they're on the edge of the cliff and Sundance says that he can't swim.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. Again, so well written.
It's just the looks that they give each other and the fact that he doesn't change tone. He still sounds like.
And the acting is great.
They're
in that scene.
so good.
I watch it every time I watch it. It just even the gestures.
They're so funny.
One of my favorite, and I have that whole movie. That's how much a fan I am. I have my lines memorized.
So you're Back to the Future.
Yeah, but when he's looking at and all of a sudden he's like, all right, well we'll face him here. Where are we facing here?
Yeah.
Or wait till they get closer, and then you see Butch is looking over the cliff, and he's like, no, we'll jump. And he says like, no, we're not going to jump. And he says, well, do you want to? He says, we'll fight him here. And he goes, well, we're outnumbered. Do you want to die? And then the way Sundance looks over the cliff, he goes, do you?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you're going to die either way. And he's like, no, well, if the fall doesn't break our necks and we don't drown, we'll make it.
Yeah.
It was just so
I
well
like
done.
it when he goes, I can't swim. And then he goes to follow up, he cracks up.
I know, it's great. He cracks up. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I can't swim. And even when after he says I can't swim, and he just kind of looks down at the ground like, there, I said it, okay? I can't swim.
And
then they have the kind of opposite later on when he says, hey,
I've never shot anybody
before.
not
a good time to tell you this, but I've never shot anybody. It's like, well, you picked a hell of a time to tell me that.
That made me laugh. The other thing that made me laugh really hard was the when they're trying to learn Spanish enough to hold somebody up.
Oh, that was great.
I'm like,
great scene.
This is Duolingo would have cleared this up.
And it's exactly. But it's so funny because again, at that time, like when you're watching that and they go in to rob the bank, and the first time they go in there and everyone's speaking Spanish, all of a sudden they look on their faces like they're looking at each other, and they kind of storm out embarrassed. And the next thing it cuts right to them like learning Spanish. You're like, boy, I didn't even think of that. Which is also again used very well because at the end, as they're facing their final battle, and he says, I love that line too, and he says, I got another place we can go. Everybody away from Sundance is like, no more ideas. Yes. That's it. And then he says, all right, Australia. And he says, I told you because I knew secretly you wanted to know.
That's
funny. I love that. And again, that's that camaraderie. Like he knows him so well that even though he's saying no, but even what's so funny to me is right after that he goes, I'm not going anywhere. I'm done. He goes, well, they speak English there. All of a sudden Sundance is like, they do?
Yeah.
And like right away he's like, I'll never go anywhere. I'm done with your ideas.
That's really funny.
They do? Okay. And then he says, it's far though, isn't it? He's like, oh, nothing's ever perfect for you. You're like everything you got to find some negative. I just don't want to go there and find out I don't like it if it's far.
That is funny.
It's just great dialogue.
No, and that's a William Goldman hallmark too.
Yeah.
Like I picked The Princess Bride is one of our favorite movies.
Yeah.
And he, I know I'm reading that up a bit, but like his sense of humor is so clear.
Right.
And that was like the first thing when I was watching this movie. It kind of felt like me feel like, oh, okay, I think I'm actually gonna enjoy this because like this is fun.
Right.
Again, I didn't know the ending. And then when we reached the ending, I was like, oh, we're not having fun. Anymore.
No, it's a very serious ending. Yeah.
It is.
But Goldman also did a screenplay for Marathon Man. Like he did serious,
true.
drama films too. Yeah. But I don't mind. Like I said, I think in real life you mix some humor with some drama. Mm-hmm. It's appreciated.
The ending shot, which is one that it's iconic. It's the poster.
Right.
So you've seen it.
Right.
The way that it's done is such a good, clear comma on the end of the movie, right before the credits get to roll.
Yeah. And you know how the camera slowly pans back.
Yeah.
You get that whole vista,
And it like you hear it's them charging out. They're cornered by the Bolivian army.
Yeah.
And you hear all kinds of shooting, and then the credits roll, and it's
and
essentially
they're yelling "Fuego!"
Yeah.
Fuego!
Yeah. It is a really solid and sobering and like cap on a film that kind of like rolled with a lot of different tone choices we've mentioned.
Yeah. And really, and people you've enjoyed for 2 hours.
Yeah, and there's enough like. It's a strangely somber ending for a film that seems like it's having such a good time.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. You don't walk out of the theater, laughing or talking as much. It's a little like a funeral procession walking out of there. Mm-hmm. Because again, but that's what film does. That's what I love about film. You're enjoying it. You're, like same with Bonnie and Clyde. Mm-hmm. That also had a really horrible ending, both based on true stories. So you can't change that. But you get to know the characters. You like them. You spend time with them, and all of a sudden they're gone, just like that, massacred. And you're like, wow, that's kind of heavy, to walk out after. But I think again, that's kind of what movies are for,
It's honestly, like
you have a range of emotions for sure.
Yeah, and like real life doesn't come with genres. Like stuff happens, and one of the things I think is really interesting about film is it allows you to really get in someone else's skin for a while. Like you can join someone else's experience.
Yeah.
And stories like this that take a wide-eyed lens at a person's life, or like the back end of someone's, the last couple years or months or whatever.
Yeah.
Things are going to happen that it's not going to fit a tight story of like, here is an event that happens. Here's several things that happen to these guys, and this is how it ends.
That lead to this end, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I did find myself wondering, The Outsiders is one of my favorites movies / books. Yeah. And the opening for that is when I stepped out and the only thing on my mind were Paul Newman and The Ride Home.
Exactly.
And I'm trying to put together, based on the time, what movie that would have been if this would have been it. I don't know if it is, though.
No, it's The Hustler.
Okay.
Yeah, because if you notice, is it The Hustler?
It's early 60s. Because I remember
they're both early 60s films, too, right. But at one point, I think he does strike a pose that's from the poster of the film. And I think in the book they mention it, or in the film, the Outsiders film, by Francis Ford Coppola. I think he does kind of do a pose, because I think they show the poster in the background.
I think you're right.
And I don't remember now exactly which one, but I remember when I saw it, I knew right away, like, oh, that's definitely either HUD or The Hustler. I'm kind of leaning with HUD.
Haven't seen it.
It came out in 63, and I think the film takes place in 63.
Okay, so
and it's at the theater,
right?
So that makes sense, yeah, because The Hustler was 61, I think.
That's the math, yep.
Right, yeah, so it was probably HUD.
Paul Newman was actually cast originally to play Sundance. Did you read that?
I did, and you know what's funny? I even told my kids, can you even imagine the original screenplay title was Sundance, The Sundance Kid and Butch Cassidy.
I hate it.
Which sounds so weird. I said, how could William Goldman, such a great writer, have had that? It seems cumbersome and awkward. I said, but then I said, I wonder if we had seen the film with that title, if that would have rolled off our tongues. I don't think so, because it just seems more, like it seems like it has to end on a one-syllable word. Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. Like that flows really well.
Maybe, but it could also be, and this is from someone who's been born several years after the film came out. This could also be like, I know the name of that movie.
Right, exactly. And me too. Like that's how I've always heard the names in that order. So maybe if it had been written differently. What did you just say too about the? So not only was that originally the title and the original idea, Jack Lemmon, you probably saw this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Steve McQueen and Warren Beatty all turned down the
that.
chance to play the Sundance Kid.
I think so did Marlon Brando.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, because he was doing something else at the time. I forget, One-Eyed Jacks or something. But yeah, so it would have been definitely a different film. I mean, because Robert Redford really was kind of an unknown at that time.
Yeah.
You know, to have him paired with Paul Newman. Although Paul Newman is credited first, of course.
Well, and he did, because then later they would do Steve McQueen and Paul Newman shared credits on
side
Towering
by side,
Inferno.
right? Exactly.
Yeah, so no one got top billing.
Because Steve McQueen had a big ego, so I don't even think he wanted to be sort of the sidekick
No.
to Butch Cassidy. I could see that being the reason. The other ones maybe were busy or whatever. I forget what their excuses were. But I mean, I think we're lucky for that. They might have been okay, but I think the pairing there was great.
It worked out really well.
Gave us the sting, and for the rest of their lives, they were trying to find another vehicle. They did. I saw Robert Redford again in an interview saying they didn't want to do a sequel. How could you do a sequel to Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid anyway? But the Sting, maybe they could have, and they did do a really bad sequel. I don't know if you knew that with Jackie Gleason and Mac Davis.
That's a choice.
Yeah. So go check that out if you dare. The Sting 2, it's easy to find. But they never really, and it's crazy because even Robert Redford was lamenting it. I don't know how old he was in the interview, but he was saying like, in Hollywood, they create films all the time. Like you couldn't come up with something else that we could have done together.
Sure.
I
would think you would want, this is just me, I would want something like some really good material if I was going to bring those two guys back in.
And maybe that's what happened. But although Redford seemed pretty willing to work with him, they apparently did become good friends. He said on screen and off screen.
This episode was meant largely as a tribute to the late Robert Redford, who like I said, I until this moment I'd only ever seen older. I saw pictures of him younger. Yeah. But performance-wise, I saw him as the villain in Captain America: The Winter Soldier. He's phenomenal in that. Yeah. I'm very glad I've seen him now in this. In his prime. Yeah, and the stuff that made him big and put him on the map in the first place.
I think he's a good actor, and I really do. Watching it again, even I do think he's really, really good in this film.
He's riding
very natural.
That 1970s, like the more naturalistic style as we're fading out from the 60s. Yeah. And
all the dialogue, like I said, it rings true.
He's really good.
And his delivery of it, it could be a little hammy, it could be corny. Yeah. Sometimes dramatic actors, when they play comedy, they tend to overdo it a little bit. Like maybe stage-wise or whatever from stage. But I thought he handled it really well. Yeah. And Paul Newman he said he hates doing comedy.
Really?
Yeah, he said he can't do comedy, but he's again, and it wasn't straight comedy, obviously, but his lines were delivered well, like where it really did work. Because instead of thinking of it as a comedy, just think of it as real life, which has comedic moments,
Paul Newman was one of those guys, because he started out in like the golden age of Hollywood. He was like one of those guys. Yeah. He was a huge name.
Compared to Brando, too, early.
Yeah. Actually, I don't know if you knew this, but he was the visual basis for Hal Jordan, the Green Lantern in the 60s comics.
Oh, yeah.
He had a very distinctive look.
Definitely a distinctive look.
They both did to some degree, but Newman brings such a warm realism to this guy. Like these larger than life characters. That's the thing. When you're playing these characters, when you're playing like Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, when you're playing Wyatt Earp, Billy the Kid, you're playing names that are names in American history. Right. We know these names. We know these people. So trying to make a man out of the myth can be challenging in these true to life stories. Yeah, yeah. I think I benefited, like I said, from not really knowing anything about the real life Butch Cassidy. Right. For neither of them. But I didn't know they were real guys. Right. And I think that when you go into something like that, there's a struggle between trying to play a character and trying to play a person. Right, right. I think they benefit from movies that old, like about things that happened where we don't have any televised record or anything like that, because no one is going to stand up now and say, well, no, for a fact that's not how it was. Right, exactly, yeah. And there's creative license, of course. Yeah, that's accepted or expected. But you're right. I enjoy the humanity. Certainly no one at the time could have said, like, oh, Paul Newman, Butch Cassidy wouldn't have said that. Right. How would you know? There was a real humanity that both of those guys brought to lives that were on the run. Like this isn't Bonnie and Clyde. These guys are not winning. Right. Like they are in small doses. Right. But the back half of the film is they're running for their lives. Right. Pretty much from actually again. Pretty early. What's his name? I'm forgetting his name a second. You're good. Yeah, it's not coming. But anyway, he's the marshal who, remember, it's a funny scene too because he has them tie them up. He has them tie him up, and even as they're tying him up, he's telling them,
Like, you know, you boys are running out of time. The best thing you can do is pick out how and when you're going to die.
That was such a good line.
That's a great scene, too, right? Because it kind of summed up where they were at that point, which you just mentioned. Like, you know, you keep running and you think it's all a game, but, you know, they're going to get you eventually.
Mm-hmm.
And that was an important scene, I thought, too. A very small scene. Jeffrey Corey, I think is his name, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So he had a small but pivotal part in that film.
It is, and that was such a good look at that, because we like to romanticize villains. We like to romanticize anti-heroes.
Yeah, yeah. And that was the 60s and 70s.
That was their era.
Yeah, yeah.
I think the Wild Bunch was going on at the same time. That was the same
year, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The black and white heroes from like the golden age of Hollywood were kind of fading out, and people were choosing, like, people were starting to like the criminals.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's interesting, and to kind of watch. This is the first time I saw like a portrayal where I didn't, like, I sympathized, like, wholly, and it wasn't like well, you know, they're gonna get what's coming to them no matter what.
Right.
It was a matter of like, man, I really do kind of hope this works out.
I know. Yeah. And then when they go straight, which unfortunately doesn't work out, which is also true to life. They really did go straight. They really did. All that's true. In fact, that's another guy who was in it. Strother Martin.
Yeah.
Has a good part in that too. And his character dies.
Mm-hmm.
But in real life, that guy that he plays, who's also a real person, was the one who supposedly created the myth that they were killed.
Interesting.
Like, no one really knew that. So he's the one who kind of got word back to the States that, oh, no, they were dead. I saw them dead. Which no one ever could verify, especially at the time.
Right.
So
there's a lot to be. Yeah, the American West is full of a lot of myths.
It is.
Most of which that we created, kind of on purpose.
I know, and you've heard that story, you know, about print the myth. You know, when you get the truth or the myth. The myth is better. It sells more papers, and the bad guys get better press. They do. John Dillinger, in fact, I mentioned earlier. I found it also fascinating that he was so well loved while he was robbing banks during the Depression, because to most common working man, the banks were the problem. You know, they caused all this, so he was robbing them. So they were defending him, hiding him, and he became a sort of a folk hero, like a Robin Hood.
Yeah.
Which again, years later, I keep saying Paul Newman. They played him so well; they really inhabited the characters. But Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid sort of became the same way in film.
I enjoyed. It did not feel like an action film. Like there was a bit of gunfighting, but it was never like this is shot like an action piece.
Yeah.
It's kind of a small scale story. Like the settings like are beautiful, cinematography is awesome, but it does stay very zeroed in on these guys and their relationships with the people around them, with each other. And it's just a neat little piece of American cinema that I'm glad I did finally get a hold of it.
I'm so glad you did too. You know, again, the score. Not the score. Not the score.
Don't talk about that, please.
The script. There's just a couple of lines I even wrote, which I thought were great. Well, of course, "Who Are These Guys" is iconic. Everyone knows that. But when he's paying Pinkerton detectives and all these people, and Butch Cassidy says, if he'd just pay me what he's spending to make me stop robbing him, I'd stop robbing him. It's true, right?
Yeah.
Just give me that money that you're paying the guys to stop me from robbing you, and I'll stop robbing you.
It's really funny.
It's a great line. And one of my other favorite lines was during that long. Some people felt it was overextended. I didn't think so. I thought it set the right tone. You know, that whole chase scene with them on the run. Even when they switched horses, you know, when he says, like, oh, come on onto my horse, that'll definitely throw him off. And it does, just for a moment, you know, like nothing was stopping those guys from finding him. And at one point when he says, Paul Newman says, all right, which way? And Robert Redford says, doesn't matter. I don't know where we've been, and I've just been there. He says, they can't follow us. That, we're safe. And then Redford says, you really think so? And he says, I will if you will. Again, it's just such a great line. And you can see people in real life saying that, you know. Do you really believe that? I will if you will.
My favorite line in it was the sheriff. Your time is over. You're gonna die bloody, and all you can choose is where. Or do is choose where. And I think it's such a grim tone setter, like relatively early in the movie. Like as much fun as this is, it's got to come to an end.
Yeah, it's before the second half. Yeah. So it is an omen or.
To the point, I almost forgot about it until we were nearing the end, and I was like, I have a feeling this isn't gonna end too well.
Yeah.
And.
Yeah, I wish I could see it again for the first time. When I saw it, I was so young. I don't think I even would have really appreciated it. but you can't get that back, unfortunately.
I'm glad I saw it older. I think when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm able to appreciate a lot.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
And also appreciate really like the cultural touchstone that this movie has been. There's so many movies in the late '60s that have become like titans of cinema.
Yeah.
This is like the one that I hear. I think not even really referenced.
It's on everyone's like top 100
Everyone's
films you got to see. You said top westerns always. It's always in there. It's in my western collection.
I don't know if I would put this as like my favorite western of all time. I think my favorite western of all time is still Rio Bravo.
Yeah.
Which. Yeah. Again, that's a more classical take.
That's the thing. Like I'm not even sure. Is this really a western? Like
I think
it's hard
so.
to. Yeah, it is. It's definitely a western. But I mean, it's hard to even classify like along with some of those other.
It's not a classic. Real westerns, it's one of the. I think it's one of like the neo revisionist. Like we started to take another look at.
Yeah, it almost needs its own place. You know. Yeah.
I'd put this more in the same category as like Unforgiven or like the movies that they started doing where they started kind of analyzing
in the '90s and beyond. Yeah.
And
I can't think of any of those really. Well, I mean, I can't say that's not necessarily true with John Wayne. There was some humor in his films too.
Oh yeah.
But this movie, very heavy on the humor.
Yeah, well, I think too. Like that's playing to the strengths of their performers. Like you know, John Wayne just
and the camaraderie. You needed that.
Yeah.
Yeah, John Wayne didn't really have a partner like that in his films either. Nope. You know, it was usually John Wayne.
Yep.
Although I think John Wayne could have played it well too. Wasn't written for him.
I have to think about that.
Yeah, because he's got that kind of sly sense of humor too. He could have played the Butch Cassidy role, I think.
Maybe. I know John Wayne was a victim of typecasting. And a couple of times I have seen him in stuff where he's allowed to do something else. I'm like, oh shoot, he can act. He's good,
actually pretty good. Yeah, right.
Yeah. One of my favorites of his is The Quiet Man, where he's not playing a cowboy or a soldier.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Great
and
film.
The Shootist is another one of his that is a really good, just rock solid performance from him. Yeah.
Although that's a western, but even in the same sense that McClintock's sort of a western, but not really.
No, sort of.
Not really. But he's funny in that too. He's great in that.
That's true.
Great role. Yeah.
Did you have a favorite character in this? Like, if you had to pick?
Oh, well, really, it's got to be Butch and Sundance. I mean, they're just.
You got to pick one.
I can't even believe I'm saying this because I've been a huge Paul Newman fan for years.
Sundance?
I think it is Robert Redford.
Crazy.
I think, you know what? I think it was really only today watching it again. I really appreciated his take on it, his delivery of some of the lines.
He's really good.
You know, Paul Newman was not quite a straight man, but almost a straight man in some scenes, certain scenes for sure, to Sundance's lines. I thought it was, you know, Sundance had some great lines. They both had great lines. It was a really well-written script. But I'm going to have to go with, who else could you pick? Jeff Corey had that great line too, but, you know, you're not going to choose him. It was a really good cast.
They're awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Sundance was my favorite. I was watching it with my eye on
Really?
him.
So you feel that same way?
Yeah. Well, and part of it too, like I knew we were watching this with Redford's recent passing, so I was watching it with my eyes on him specifically.
Yeah.
And
maybe that's part of it too. I was really focusing.
Yeah.
And I like his films. I never really considered him such a great actor. I don't know. I just never really thought about it. He's okay, but I thought he was really good in this. I thought, like I said, the line deliveries were perfect.
I think he found a lot of, and again, I need to watch more of his stuff. This is only my second, but from what I've heard, a lot of people said he found a lot of roles that fit him pretty well.
Yeah, or the people, whoever chose him, found it. Yeah. But I thought, like some of those lines, like I said, I thought they rang like when he says, you know. He's like, I don't want to die to you. And he's like, do you?
Very real life.
Very realistic, yeah. And again, those lines have to be delivered with a realism because they're in a very tense situation, you know? You can't deliver it like, here's my joke, you know? It can't be like that.
Yeah, wait for the punchline.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. They can't be delivered like punchlines. And I thought they rang very true.
Did you have a favorite, like, scene or sequence?
You know, again, it's hard to pick because there were so many. I do think... well, that whole sequence, I think, with the chase, there were so many good little lines in there, and that sort of heightened sense that, like, oh boy, these guys are relentless. They're not going to give up. And they thought for sure throughout that scene that now we'll lose them, or now they'll give up, and now they'll turn back, and it never happened. That was good, and it gave you a sense of what might come. So I think in that sort of tense situation, the lines make you laugh a little harder, you know.
I liked the opening, like I said, the bits and Seppi, like the card game. For me, that was like an opener. Like, okay, I think I like these guys. Actually.
Yeah. And it set their characters right away.
Yes.
You know, where Sundance is very steely, and then when he shoots, you know, another scene we didn't mention is later on when he sees Strother Martin, and he's going to hire them to be his hired guns basically, and he says, "Oh yeah, shoot that coin," and he shoots and he misses, and then he says, "Can I move?" And he's like, well, what are you talking about? And all of a sudden he moves and he shoots it perfect. And he says, yeah, I shoot better when I move.
Yeah.
And so that was a great scene too. You know, just a little tiny moment, but it says a lot about his character too.
Yeah. Definitely one I'm gonna want to come back to at some point in the future. So I'm glad we saw it.
Yeah, I've seen it multiple times, and it like I said, it's funny. It's one of those films that I don't mind seeing it, and if it's on somewhere and it could be halfway through it, I'll go watch it. And like even today, just watching Redford's performance and picking up little things, like appreciating it more. And again, maybe it's because of his recent passing, or maybe just never noticed it before. I have a feeling if I watch it again in the future,
He might have just been that good.
Yeah, and maybe I'll find something else too that
those are the
haven't
best.
Noticed. Yeah, they really are. Yeah.
With that said, thanks everybody so much for listening to today's episode. Please let us know if there's anything specific that you guys want to hear us talk about. I know we're going to be heading into the Christmas season pretty soon, so we're probably going to be looking at some Christmas picks.
Yeah.
But I know the list that we have is long, but it's ever growing. So anything that you guys want to hear us talk about, we're willing to check out.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
If you liked it, go ahead and follow along, subscribe, follow us, and we'll see you guys in the next episode.
Sounds good.